Sometime in the late 7th century, a heavy cloth bag slams into the mud of a shallow woodland pit in Mercia. In 2009, that exact spot was a quiet farmer's field near Hammerwich. When archaeologists recovered the contents, they moved the find from the dirt into sterile laboratory conditions for a full forensic audit. What they laid out on the examination tables was a collection of over 4,600 fragments, comprising 5.1 kilos of gold and 1.4 kilos of silver. This single deposit contains more precious metal than the Sutton Hoo ship burial, effectively recalibrating our understanding of 7th century wealth. This concentration of gold points to a source far more specialized than a royal tomb or a standard settlement, leading researchers to look past the shine and toward the structural damage. We often associate the word hoard with curated collections of royal heirlooms or a king's reserve of pristine coins safely buried for the future. The Staffordshire Hoard represents the physical byproduct of systematic military asset stripping. This is capital extraction in its rawest form, the methodical, calculated harvesting of wearable wealth from a defeated enemy force. Look at this piece. The delicate gold and vibrant red cloisonné garnets are visually stunning, but the jagged edges and embedded dirt indicate a violent separation from a weapon. These fragments are more than artifacts. They are forensic evidence of the logistics required to process the casualties of war. To understand the origin of this wealth, archaeologists conducted a strict forensic census, analyzing the exact composition of the 4,600 fragments. A typical civilian hoard features domestic vessels, standard coinage, and feminine jewelry. The Staffordshire Hoard contains none of these items. This inventory points to a singular source. Specifically, the data isolates 86 gold sword pommels and 217 hilt plates. 86 pommels equate to 86 high-status swords. This represents the extracted wealth of a specific demographic, a large, high-status warrior class gathered in a single pile. These items trace back directly to the mud of a 7th century Mercian battlefield. The morning after the fighting, the bodies of those fallen men were treated as a resource to be mined. The hoard is a record of targeted extraction, where military liquid capital was stripped from the dead to fund the expansion of the living. The physical trauma visible on the gold itself reveals the mechanics of this operation. The missing garnets and warped backing plates indicate that the precious metals were forcefully pried and ripped from solid iron and steel hosts. A sword pommel is designed to stay firmly attached to the blade. Removing it requires intense leverage, using a heavy tool and a violent twist to snap it clean off the steel tang. The looters left the heavy, functional iron blades behind. For an army on the move, carrying massive amounts of enemy steel is a logistical burden. They prioritized the lightweight, highly concentrated value of gold and silver. This forensic evidence aligns with historical texts. The Old English poem Beowulf explicitly describes warriors looting the hard sword hilts and helmets from their slain enemies. In the aftermath of battle, the brute force necessity of gathering raw bullion outweighed the value of the craftsmanship. This process was a requirement for the 7th century Mercian war machine. Kings relied on a constant influx of gold and silver to secure the political loyalty of their retainers and bankroll massive military campaigns. Had these artifacts reached their intended destination, they would have been melted down. This infographic illustrates how intricate art pieces were converted into featureless gold ingots to serve as liquid state capital. Geographically, the strategy funneled wealth inward. Riches captured in borderland skirmishes were transported back to the kingdom's central strongholds like Tamworth and Repton. By stripping the enemy dead, Mercian rulers executed a direct transfer of state wealth, attempting to cripple their rivals' economies while bolstering their own military spending. The early Anglo-Saxon kingdoms used the physical absorption of their defeated rivals' wearable wealth as a primary tool for consolidation. But this specific cash never made it to a royal furnace. It was buried in a remote highland, just south of the strategic Roman Watling Street. Burying this much liquid capital without a container suggests a moment of significant haste or a retreat where the payload had to be abandoned quickly. We see deliberate damage inflicted on Christian artifacts, like this gold strip. It bears a Latin inscription, "Rise up, Lord, and let your enemies be scattered." It was intentionally crumpled to physically suppress the sacred power of the text. This was never meant to be a permanent treasury. It was a tactical cache, buried by men who likely never survived to reclaim the spoils of their victory. The Staffordshire Hoard shifts the focus of the Dark Ages from legendary kings to the mechanics of the battlefield. These items stand as a forensic record of systematic violence and the practicalities of state building. The enduring irony of the hoard is that its beauty is preserved for us only because of the slaughter that preceded its burial. The hoard provides concrete evidence that the Mercian state secured its power through the physical harvesting and consumption.